Folks, we are headed now to the second or the third expert segment in the I.T.T. Overdue. Chomping at the bit are one of our favorite people to grace the stage on a weekly basis for the last year and a half. Look, at patience, perseverance, and progress is not just a title of the next expert segment. It's something that's been acted out. That's real, especially for amazing folks in this room. And Katie, I know it's true for you. So standing on that title, coming to give this segment today, wow. Let's go ahead and do it. Keep in mind, everybody in the room, innovation extends far beyond startups and businesses. Innovation is the transformation of any idea to impact. Keep that in mind. Katie, let's go your direction, and I want to give you the mic. Why don't you let it go?
I'm floored.
Let's go.
I can barely breathe. I'm like, oh, it's my turn. It's my turn. Ooh, okay. I'm very honored and I'm very excited to be speaking. And much as Josh was saying, I have been very much a part of and following the I.T.T. for a year and a half. And the fact that I am now here today speaking, because I haven't really, I don't think, spoken in full depth about what it is that I am doing now. Actually with anybody. So I'm very honored to be sharing this with you guys, and with Josh, yourself, and Mattia, obviously, and Cash, of course. So I wrote some notes here, but I don't want to sound like I'm reading off a script, but I really did want to shout out you guys from the I.T.T. But for those who don't know me, my name is Katie. It sounds so weird to say, hello, my name is Katie Waissel. That is my name. I am the founder of OWL, which is OWHL. And OWL stands for Overseeing the Welfare, Human Rights and Liberty for All in the Creative Industries. And OWL is a platform that I personally built to revolutionize safety and accountability in this specific industry sector. It also addresses the critical gaps in the safety within the creative sector, which systemically, as we've seen in the press and media, etc. I mean, the list is endless. As Dr. Gordon was saying earlier about pitching, and you've got, really speaking about solving a problem. This is one hell of a problem that I am absolutely determined and chomping at the bit to solve, and it is in the process. So my heart really went out to everybody that is a startup founder when Dr. Gordon said that. It's not about creating a solution and then finding the problem. There are so many problems out there in this big wide world that are desperate for solutions, but tangible solutions. And this is what OWL is all about. Anywho, so what OWL does really is, I'm just looking back at my notes here, even though I know what OWL does, I'm just overexcited, so bear with. It's basically it's an industry network where one has to be verified and goes through a verification process. I'm very excited to share that we are currently in talks with a globally and world-renowned basically, is it software? I guess it is, but service that does this, which is very, very exciting, in which every member of OWL will go through a verification process. We also provide tools such as a GPS-enabled safety system, anonymous reporting mechanisms, and really we empower creatives to work confidently whilst fostering a culture of trust and transparency. So basically, in a nutshell, a lot of the times people in the creative industries, they're self-employed. So we don't really have an HR department to go through that onboarding process. And what we do is we provide the verification on an onboarding process. So we know that every member of OWL has gone through that they're trustworthy, reliable, transparent, etc. But what's also so great is that we're building a community, and much like the I.T.T. Community as well. That was my chair, by the way. And so it's very important that we all have the rights to our own identity right there. But also what's incredibly important and built off of a very unfortunate experience of myself that in the music and entertainment industries, I wish that I would have had these tools. It is the personal alarm and safety feature. So anyway, it's not really necessarily this talk isn't about OWL per se, but I wanted to talk to you guys about my journey, because it's not been linear, and nor has it been easy to say the least. But like many of you, I also have faced many setbacks, rejections, and also moments of doubt. But through it all, there are really three fundamental principles that have guided me, which is patience, perseverance, and progress. And for me, these aren't just words; they're the foundation of how I've built OWL and how I approach life's challenges. Period. So I wanted to share just through my story, and through these three lenses, in hopes that I can inspire and encourage you all to take a step back, and take a breath. So if you do have a pen and paper to hand, that would be absolutely fantastic. If not, I know that this space is recorded, but I really encourage you, if you can, just to jot down some of these key messages, because I wrote down here, with patience, the key message here is patience is about creating space for clarity, healing, and preparation. And that's really important, because there's a lesson that I wish I'd learned earlier in my career, that it's okay to be still. So when I first entered the creative industries, I felt an immense pressure to keep moving and to chase every opportunity, to hustle nonstop and to prove myself. But over time, I realized that that this constant motion and this constant movement forward was unsustainable. It really is unsustainable. So, and some of the hardest moments of my life forced me to pause. I faced personal struggles in the industry. I have experienced exploitation, rejection, and even assault, abuse, and harassment. But it's these moments that left me feeling betrayed by a system that I'd once trusted. But they also gave me something unexpected, which is the space to reflect and the clarity to see what needed to actually change. One night stands out in particular. Wow, I remember this very vividly. I was sitting alone, incredibly overwhelmed by everything that I had experienced, and I realized I couldn't keep running. I needed to stop. I had to stop, and I had to breathe and to process everything that was going on. And honestly, hand on heart, it was in that stillness that the idea for OWL began to take shape. Patience isn't about waiting for something to happen. It's about creating the conditions for growth. And during that period of stillness, I allowed myself to focus on my mental health, my emotions, and the bigger picture of what I wanted to achieve. And it really was a time to learn and to heal, but also to build the foundation of what will eventually become OWL. So I wish for you to take away from this part in patience is, if you're at a point in your journey where things feel perhaps unclear, I want you to know that that's okay. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to be still and to give yourself the time that you need to prepare for what is next. Wow. I mean, I really genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. When it comes to perseverance, I mean this by turning pain into purpose. So the key message I wish for you all to take away from this is perseverance is about staying committed to your vision, even in the face of doubt and rejection. So once I decided to create Owl, decided to, I turned to people that I really hoped would have a solution to these problems. I knocked on government's doors, and it's a very long-winded story. And I thought to myself, well, if they won't, we will. As in we, the collective, we, the people. But once I made that fundamental decision and commitment to create Owl, I thought, I guess, that I know it sounds silly, but the hard part was over. But I quickly learned that the real challenges were just beginning. And from the start, from the start, I was met with skepticism beyond belief. People told me I was too ambitious, that the issues I wanted to tackle, such as exploitation, abuse, lack of accountability and safety in the creative industries, they were too big to solve. One meeting stands out. I'd spent weeks, oh my goodness, I did. I spent weeks preparing a proposal only to have it dismissed within minutes. I was left feeling crushed and questioning if I was chasing something impossible. But then I remembered why I started this journey, not for validation, but for the people who needed change. Perseverance taught me that rejection isn't the end, it's a redirection. Each setback helped me refine my message. It built resilience, and it made me find new allies. I connected with technologists, advocates, and creatives who not only shared my vision, but also had that vision of their own. And together, we created the tools that made OWL what it is today. One of our most significant achievements was developing our GPS-enabled safety alert system, which allows users to activate a panic button directly from their phone's lock screen. This feature has empowered, or will empower, countless creatives to feel safe in their workspaces. So I really hope and wish that you take away from that segment that challenges don't define you. How you respond to them does. Perseverance is about finding purpose in your pain and using that to fuel your vision. I promise I won't take much longer. The last part 3, is progress. The journey and not the destination, as people say. So the key message here is progress. I'm smiling. I'm so honored to be sharing this. I really, truly am. And I could not wish for a greater space to be sharing this. Josh, honestly, I thank you so much. Progress is about showing up consistently and celebrating the small wins. I feel really emotional. I'm so sorry. Building OWL has taught me that progress is not a straight line. It's a journey of small, consistent steps, often taken in the face of uncertainty. Now, very early on, I struggled with comparing my progress to others. Actually, I still kind of do that to this very day. It's only human, right? I felt like I wasn't moving fast enough or achieving enough. However, over time, I'm learning that progress isn't about speed, it's about consistency. For example, when we launched OWL's anonymous reporting mechanism, it wasn't an overnight success. It just took years of collaboration, and it really, really did. It took research and trial and error, and each small step brought us closer to creating a tool that truly empowers people. So progress is also about celebrating the wins, no matter how small they may seem. So for me, those wins include hearing from creatives, much like yourselves, who finally feel safe in their workspaces, or seeing industry leaders beginning to take our message seriously. It's these moments that remind me that every step forward is a step forward that matters. So I wish for you to take away that progress is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Focus on taking one step at a time and trust that those steps will add up. So in closing, I want to remind each and every one of you that your journey matters. As we come to the end of this talk, I want to leave you with this. Whether you're just starting out, feeling stuck, or navigating a major pivot, and for people that have heard me in spaces before, I love a good pivot. And thanks to Alex Damska, whom I absolutely love with all of my heart. remember that patience and perseverance and progress can guide you through any challenge that you face. Please be patient with yourself as you navigate these ups and downs. Perseverance when things feel impossible is what truly matters, and trust that progress will come, even if it doesn't look like the way that you had imagined. I love you, Sarah. Thank you for those hearts. Take care of your mental and emotional well-being along the way. That's very, very important because life happens. Challenges will arise, and that's okay. You're allowed to pause, you're allowed to reflect, and to grow on your own time. So thank you for allowing me to share my story with you all tonight, and I hope that it inspires you to take your next step, no matter how big or small. But the world does need your vision and your voice, but most importantly, your courage to act. So go out there and make that goddamn shit happen. Thank you. And thank you, Josh.
Katie, let's go. I want to echo that last bit. Let's freaking go to anybody who's out there who needed to hear, maybe some stories, some antidote as to how patience, perseverance, and progress don't amount to words, but amount to creating an app that's going to change the game for so many people. I just want to say, Katie, you've been part of this room for a long time. You've given feedback to other people on their projects. You've helped them to, kind of get from each checkpoint to each checkpoint, feeling like they have support and people in their corner. Everybody in the room, Katie is deserving of our utmost, attention, questions, thoughts when it comes to these types of topics. And now is her time in the limelight to answer that. If you've had questions for Katie in the past, get up here. Let's ask them. Let's talk about it. And Katie, I just want to say, what better place to come and talk about OWL, to talk about that journey, and to sum it up in such a beautiful way. I could tell you were choosing your words wisely, and you were making clear points that you wanted people to take home and you want them to really think about. And for that, I want to just say thank you for taking this stage. Katie has been on enormous stages, enormous. And to hear that there is, some nervousness or, feeling like maybe, you're in the notes and trying to make sure it goes well means that I know you care about OWL. You care about the people in this room. You care about the future of what's possible for your project and for other people. So well done. Also, in the light of what's going on, Katie, I think it was maybe a month. Maybe, no, forgive me. Maybe it was 2 months ago. You came to my mind, and I sent you a message, outside of the I.T.T, and I said, Katie, the world is now hungrier and sees even more what you've seen all along. And there has been news and headlines and a number of things that I think have made the problem that you're aiming at solving even more clear. For those of us who didn't have that personal antidote or those personal experiences, we're seeing that in the news. We're watching it unfold. And so, Katie, you're at the forefront of something that might be new to some of us, but is not new to you. So we have Jeff, we have Tamara, we have a couple people coming up to grab this mic. But I have questions, of course, as a friend and as somebody who's known you over time. What I'm interested in is you and I think people in this room, innovators, we're fixers. We see a problem and we want to fix it. But oftentimes that doesn't give us that first piece of the equation that you gave us, patience, right? We oftentimes see the problem and we try to jump right to the solution when we haven't fully understood the problem. We don't know the depths of it. And therefore, we don't know the elements of a solution that will adequately solve it. And so your first note of patience, I think, is key for every innovator in the room who views himself as somebody who comes up with ideas and wants to fix something. And I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit more about that reflection, going from the sort of the terribleness that you were experiencing to that point of reflection. How did you give yourself that space? How did you disconnect from the emotional momentum that was definitely infected in that issue, so to say? So Katie, talk to us about the first piece, this patience. When you reflect on those insights, how, because a lot of us, we see the problem, we jump to fix it, we don't have an adequate solution, and that's tough because it can feel like what Dr. Gordon Hart said, that our idea is being killed, when really we're just having that redirection that you might have talked about. So Katie, I want to give you the mic to elaborate more on how did you do that? personally, physically? How did you create the space so that way what you faced, those issues, could then turn into something like Owl HQ?
Wow, you've given me goosebumps, and what an absolutely fantastic question, and I appreciate that greatly. So, um, I, how do I best explain this? So, a few years ago, in 2021, I found the strength and courage to report to law enforcement here in the UK about something not very pleasant that happened to me in the music industry. And as I questioned how even that came about, I opened a big Pandora's box, where I conducted a subject access request to many a company, to basically be a Sandra Bullock in a CSI Miami movie. And I had all these whiteboards on my walls, and I'm like, how on earth? And I needed answers, and I wanted answers. But to answer your question, I'd ask the questions to people that I'd put my trust in, such as law enforcement, such as people in government, such as, those that one would expect to have answers. Why is this? Why is it not being investigated properly? Why is this stuff allowed to happen? All of the whys, basically. And I called for a meeting with the Secretary of State of the DCMS at the time, who actually was or is still my local MP. And I said to him, here's all of my evidence, but there is so much more to this. And why is this happening? It was the why. And they said, well, I respect the fact that you've come here, but I can't be seen to have an opinion either way. And that was a big penny drop moment for me, in full transparency, because I then realized that there was a bigger issue, and systemic issue that led for me to say, well, that's not right, that's not okay, as much as everybody else would. And I knocked on every door possible, imaginable, because when one is a victim of really not very nice things, you would only but expect others in such positions to do something, and they didn't. And they haven't, and they still haven't. And I went online, and it was only 3 years ago that I really delved deep into X live spaces. If I was, I wouldn't even have the courage or confidence to speak a full sentence 3 years ago, to be very frank, on these spaces. And it's thanks to these spaces that I built up my confidence to do so. But I listened. I listened to people on the Twitter community, TikTok, Instagram, everyone. I listened, and everybody was saying the same thing. And yet there was still not a resolve. There was still no tangible solution. And actually, it was the Secretary of State for the DCMS that put together a roundtable committee called CISA now in the UK, which is the Creative Independent, the CISA, Creative Industries Independent Standards Authority. But it's basically hullabaloo. And much like I was at school, I was the disruptor in these meetings too, because they went for the low-hanging fruit. They went for the people that, okay, well, we can solve this problem with the people that are employees. They've got HR departments and so on and so forth. And I'd throw my hands up and I'd say, hang on a minute, that's all well and good, but what about the regular people, like all of us, that we don't have access to any of that? I actually during lockdown and during my reporting, I still pinch myself because I'm like, how does this happen? But I did a law degree, and how I did that, because I left school at 16, I don't know, but it was very fascinating and I loved every second of it. But I said, no, you're not protecting the people that need to be protected, which is the people without protection. And I told them what I wished for OWL to be. I sat on round tables with heads of the creative industry. So the head of BAFTA, the head of oh God, the Ivor Novello Awards, the head of the modeling, all of these people. And I said, I'd like to create OWL. And initially it was supposed to be a 360, come under our wing and we'll provide mental health support and so on and so forth. And then CISA decided to take that idea and run with it. And so I said, pivot, in the words of Alex Damska. And I said, the bigger the problem, the greater the blessing. Let them go and run with that. And there's clearly a better avenue that I need to investigate more. So, yeah, that's how it all initially came about, because
Katie,
people
I love it.
weren't doing what they should be doing. So I said, if they won't, we will.
You know what I loved about that first bit? What I took out of that, what you had said here, Katie, is you said I stopped and I looked at why. I asked why. Why is it happening this way? A lot of times, the assumptions that we make as to why something's happening will cause us to make solutions that don't actually solve the problem, like we were saying before. So I love that you gave yourself self this time, and maybe part of it was asking, well, why did this happen? Why did it happen to you? Why is it still happening? Why is there not things in place to fix it? You asked enough good questions and you got enough good answers that you had the information you needed, incubated, and you created a solution that's phenomenal, right? And I think that there's something magical about that. So I wanted to pin in. It's like that why, Katie, when you were asking why, led you to get answers. I say every ITT at the beginning of it in the recaps. I say the quality of our questions determines the quality of our results. I didn't come up with that. That's a great, smart, amazing, intelligent folks over time have realized that the deeper the question, the more pointed you can ask, the answers you get actually become part of the table of data that you use to craft the solutions. So, Katie,
Can I
you're
also just share,
yeah,
Josh? This is why it's so. Don't mute your mic. Be up here with me. This is why it's so important to build a team, because I I am just me, and as for those that know me, I can waffle. Because I'm trying to process information, and I love the fact that you summed everything up in like 2 sentences, and that's absolutely amazing. But this is why it's also very important to build a team of people around you, that are maybe sometimes more able to articulate when pitching, for example.
absolutely. I mean, the value of a team is, I won't digress too much from where we are, but we live in a specialized world. There's a lot of specialists, right? People are great at marketing, great at coding, great at, these certain things. As innovators, it's our job to also be deep generalists and look at how we can fill in the holes on our team that we know we need, not just specialize in what we do. And that's why I think, innovators that really build the greatest teams, part of the innovation they made was the team, was the product, which is the team. And I just want to echo that. I love what you're saying, Katie. I agree fundamentally there. Again, what Dr. Gordon Hart said: innovation doesn't happen alone. No, no way. Because you look, the ability to have people understand your ideas you're limited by your ability to communicate them. If you can't communicate them well, you're toast. That's why we do pitches inside this room as often as we can do them and help people refine that. If you can't communicate what the problem in your solution is to anybody, then hopefully you find some folks who get it from the abstract nature of your description and get them on your team so they can define it to investors or other people for you, without a doubt. Jeff G, we'll go over to you. I noticed we have a couple people grabbing the mic, likely wanting to ask a couple questions. We'll keep this rolling. I do want to put a flag up in the air for 60-second pitches. 60-second pitches is going to be happening in maybe the next, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. We're totally flexible on stage right now. People who want to pitch, reach out to Cash Money or Mattia. We would love to put you on that list. We're going to listen to maybe 2 or 3 pitches today. Sometimes folks who get themselves on the list and confirm, they have other things come up. So mastering the pivot means that sometimes each one of you get an opportunity to fill that gap. So if you want to pitch or want to give feedback on pitches, maybe ask one of the 7 questions that Dr. Gordon Hart gave us, right? Maybe we'll use those in the pitches today since he's here. And just a flag over to them. Jeff, we'll go to you, my friend. Any questions, comments, thoughts for Katie while we have her in her segment? Mike is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Katie for that. Was absolutely delighted to hear the experience that she went through, because a lot of the responses that she talked about were kind of the ones that I've gotten, but I haven't been going to the formal locations, formal institutions and groups yet with this very much. I did some. I did try and approach our state legislature in here in Oklahoma, my particular legislator, and got the same basic results that she did, But I just wanted to applaud her for that perseverance and the strength of character, that she's shown, and in the persistence and getting to where she's at with that. And Katie, check your DMs. There are a couple of notes in there. I've got a couple things you might want to look at. We can talk about that in the background, but I think I might have access to some stuff that might be helpful to you. I'm really hoping that Amanda is able to learn from Katie's examples here, and maybe even the two of them might do a little bit of collaborating together, because I know how passionate Amanda is about her project and how much she struggled to get any help and support from people. So I hope she can find that strength and perseverance that Katie's been demonstrating and whatnot. And I'm just absolutely so grateful for what Katie said, because that's why we're here. What she's doing, that's why most of us are here, and we're either looking for those teams or trying to build one around our projects or something. And I know that Katie wanted to hopefully hear from Dr. Gordon, and I would dearly like to hear if he has anything to say there. So I'm going to shut up, and I got to bail here in about 10 minutes because my 12-step group's going to be gathering here.
Jeff, it's always so good to have you on stage, Jeff G.
Thank you all being here, and everybody have a blessed day wherever you are.
You too, brother. Happy holidays. And what, a great just kind of note to Katie, and also maybe some kind of questions or some further explanation in some sense that could be warranted if you want to give it to Jeff or any residents. Dr. G, we do have a way to raise hands inside the room, Dr. Gordon Hart, which if you have anything that you'd like to contribute, feel free to grab that mic and come on up. For now, Katie, I'll give you the mic. I have another question or two before we pivot anywhere. And I know we're talking, the pivot's a hot word right now. Before we do any pivoting, I'd love to get a couple more questions in. Anything that you wanted to share with Jeff? I don't mean to step on your toes. He had a lot of nice words for you.
Oh my great goodness, my heart swells, because if I can just touch even but one person with the message that I was so eager and chomping at the bit to share, then my night and my weekend and my everything is made. Because really, when anybody does anything, I would hope anyway, it's only for the betterment of people, and all around anyway. But Jeff, thank you so much for your kind words. Because look, at the end of the day, we're all only human beings, and it's tough out there. So for whatever reason or purpose that you're doing what you're doing, if you're as half as passionate as we all are in this space, then I truly am grateful. Like, it means so much. I'm beetroot red in the face. I am, but I'm very honored and grateful. Thank you very much for your kindness.
It's so cool, the community we've developed over the last 77 weeks, to get to know each other, know those journeys, the peaks and the troughs of that. and really get to see each other and recognize that. Jeff, appreciate you coming up and grabbing that mic. I mean, as always. Dan, before I go over to you, might be a question. Also, I know that we probably have a pitch from you today, which would be awesome. I want to pin in on something because Jeff was talking about perseverance, something that everybody in the room, even people maybe on the panel, he suggested could use more of that discussion. You casually walked by something when you were talking, Katie. You said rejection needs to be redirection, right? And it's even in the common phrase. I remember, to use Alex Damsker's words. She said, "Don't pivot away from something, pivot towards something." And so in this vein, you have rejection forcing redirection, right? Just as a concept, which ultimately gets you, not out of the game. There's no failure there. It's feedback, right? And moving in a better direction. I would love for
Absolutely.
I'd love for you to touch on that and maybe share, whatever you feel like is necessary, expanding on some of those points there.
Absolutely, and I love that, and thank you for pulling that up. It's when one is really, truly, incredibly passionate about literally it, because I know Alex Damsker is all about there is a solution to a problem, not a solution and then we're finding a problem. Is that I cannot even begin, and I don't think I even need to say in the creative industries, there is clearly and evidently and data proven, and I know this firsthand myself, very unfortunately, a problem, a huge, big, fat problem in the industries, in the creative industries, that why has there not been like a solution for that, a tangible solution for that? I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel here. It's like, why? And it goes back to the why. And so when faced with, rejection or, oh, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, we're not stupid. We know where, people's, how do I best phrase this without sounding like a knob? It's basically, unfortunately and disappointingly, the world isn't what we all perceive it to be. And that's okay, though, because as long as we see transparently for what it is, then we can work around that to then continuously, grow in the way that we need to grow to provide those solutions to these problems. And what I mean by that, because I'm talking around the houses here, is the fact that, in the creative industries, for example, we know that there are very significant people that donate to certain parties and people, and it's all a little bit distorted. And rather than trying that was a cardboard cutout of the Polar Express. My bad. Rather than trying to change the unchangeable, it's very important to focus or refocus your energy on doing something in which you can then therefore change in a way that goes outside of the box. So, for example, with our, yes, initially this was an idea to be like, okay, I've studied law. I want to provide independent legal support as well as mental health support and so on and so forth to people in the industries. I presented it to the CISA roundtable. They decided that that would be their shtick, and I said, okay, very good. Because there's no point fighting against, I'm not going to waste my time or my energy if it's not going to get me anywhere. I'd rather beat them to it, because if that's what they think that they're going to do, there clearly is another area of which needs to be addressing before it even gets to that point. And I actually, because of spaces, and I was listening about technology, to be very frank, I cold emailed everybody on LinkedIn to say, I'd like to learn more. Not I want a meeting because I'm the best person on the planet to do it with. I said, hello, my name is Katie. This is what I'd like to create and build, and I'd like to learn more. Do you by any chance have any time to have a chit chat with me about it? And I was very honored that they did. And it was MDRX, which is part of Mishcon Dorea, who are now my strategic partners, and Tom Grogan, who I absolutely love implicitly, all because of a cold email. I did not know this guy before, that I sent a message on LinkedIn, and I said, oh, hello, I just want to learn a little bit more. So open up your big wide world. And you might not have all of the answers immediately, but the answers will come and fall into your plate. You know me, Josh, I can waffle, and I probably have waffled with this question, but I'm very excited to just tell everyone everything.
Well, Katie, I love waffles, and I bet you a lot of people in the room do as well. So we're going to be okay with it. I love the fact that you're drilling in on that, and your background, your story lends its hand to a lot of what innovators need to hear. And you kind of gave me some flowers earlier for articulation. All I did was sum up what you articulated so beautifully. So I think having you here for the segment only makes sense and maybe overdue. Dan Roeder, let's go to you. Any questions, comments, or thoughts for Katie while we still have her? Again, just to everybody in the room, I see we have Satz, Dan, maybe Amanda on stage. We are headed to 60-second pitches soon enough. I will tell you guys how we do that, what it looks like, but I'm going to need help on stage. We're going to want to give feedback, crowdsource feedback to these innovators. Come up, grab the mic if you're interested in helping me give some feedback to some great innovators on pitches. I'd love to have you. Dan, we'll go over to you. Any questions or comments for Katie? Mic is all yours.
Yeah, just one question, Katie. But first of all, we've spoken many times, and I just love your heart and how deeply invested you are in this work. I know we have a lot of alignment there. And one of the questions that I have is, thinking about scale for you, what are some things that, and you also mentioned it yourself, like preventative measures, beating people to the punch. So what are some preventative measures or protocols that we can teach and like explicitly model for youth, and for especially I'm always thinking about like what's called gray area adults, those 18 to 25-year-olds who they can vote but they can't rent a car, and they also their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed yet. So how can we kind of instill these practices that you're trying to correct and intervene in, and take a preventative approach to it, and specifically for youth?
Dan, I love you so much for this question, and amen. And all the love in the world to you. Absolutely. This is exactly what Al's platform is made for. I please God one day hope that this is it's mandated, because oftentimes, or predominantly in the creative industries, as I'm sure you know, people are self-employed, and they enter contracts for service, and so on and so forth. And so they don't have to go through this onboarding process from an employee standpoint. So when you typically get a job, you have to fill out all these forms, go through background checks, and so on and so forth. But when you're in the industry, as a self-employed person, where is that standard? And so initially off the bat, every member of OWL will go through that process. You're being onboarded. So that big tick next to your name shows that you have due diligently gone through that onboarding process. And once you're on there and you vouch for one another, you are then able to, before you even go and do a job, able to search the database and see if the person that you were going to be working with has also gone through that verification process. This lends itself to many industry sectors, but predominantly, obviously, we are going gung ho with the creative industries, and that's what I'm incredibly passionate about. So, for example, if you are 18 years old, and you are going to do a project and you go on the internet and say, oh, okay, well, who am I going to do a songwriting collaboration with and for, or what have you? You'll be able to go onto OWL and search the database to see if they have been OWL verified. And please God, it will eventually become the norm that you have been verified through our verifications system, and we are a hair's breadth away from closing a big partnership with a very reputable, more than reputable company that even looks after the likes of this platform, for example, in terms of verification. But you'd be able to then see like, oh, okay, they've gone through that. I can take verbatim that I know who I'm walking into a room with. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can prevent something, God forbid, from happening. But also, what's amazing is the fact that once you've scanned your QR code, because I love a good QR code, and gone through your verification process, you are then generated this bespoke QR code. But we also do this for companies as well. So, say, for example, I don't know, if you're going into Warner Chapel and you're going into the writing studios there, the businesses and companies would have taken the and onboarded the policies and of safeguarding and so on and so forth, but they have a QR code. So you scan and check in. Once you've scanned and checked in, it activates your in case of emergency button on your lock screen. So you don't have to unlock your phone to make a phone call or anything. It's literally a touch of a button. And the comparable to this is a home alarm system like I.T.T. And when you have your key holders, so if your alarm goes off and then your key holders get notified and so on and so forth, it's very much the same. So if somebody finds themselves in a not very good predicament, they don't even have to unlock their phone. They push the button. Now, there is literally a 60 seconds wiggle room, as I call it, to cancel the request if needs be for a false alarm. But you've already inputted your in case of emergency people on your onboarding process. And once that alarm is activated, it with your QR code, it accesses your the geolocation. And so if you do not cancel that alarm, then law enforcement will be able to geolocate you and get to your place of where you're in danger. It's something that I wish I would have had back in the day, but I think that it is incredibly important. Because it's not safe out there, and everybody has the right to being safe, to be very frank. So yeah, in terms of answering your question, with that middle ground area, people will be able to onboard and go through the verification platform, have the safety of knowing that there's the GPS and in case of emergency button, but also will be able to search who else that they would be working with has also gone through that verification system in the meantime.
Dan, I love the question, my friend, and to pin it in again on something that I think is so worthwhile, Katie, being up here, talking about. Not that we don't love having you in any vein of any conversation, Katie, is the problems and solutions that we create as innovators. Some of them can be very clear, and some of them can be more abstract. And oftentimes, Katie, what you landed on is something that's clear: the safety of people, right? But when they are, for example, to use the ADT phenomenon, a home never leaves its security system behind because a home is stationary. And so, when we look at defining problems for people's safety in the places that they travel and doing that in an abstract way, we actually start to define a problem that can have a solution. And so I think what's really cool by having you on stage is I hope people are inspired and don't limit themselves just because the problem isn't as fundamental as, I need to carry water from point A to B. And I need that. The problem is I need to transport the water. And there's only so many solutions to that. What about the abstract nature of the real problems that have been yet to be defined and have a framework that then we can tackle? And I think that that's part of what, Katie, you're doing. You lived an experience that ultimately gave you insights into
Amen.
how you can fix this for everybody, even though it's not as straightforward as a water bottle, to use that example. But you've crafted a way to do that. And so I want to applaud you. It's
Amen.
it's
But
it's
this,
tough. It's tough to do that.
Josh, and thank you. But this also works for companies and businesses also, because they have an HR department for their employees, but again, using Warner Chapel as an example, they cannot literally monitor and oversee and be like, I know that they are responsible for, but every single person and then their friend and then this and then that and then the other in any songwriting session, for example. But if it's mandatory that you have to literally just get your phone out and a one click, it doesn't have to be difficult. One click and you scan in with your QR code. Cool. Boom. You are who you say you are. And then you're in a writing session in the middle of the night, wherever, because music happens in all hours of the day. At least there is a data recorded entry that says that you were where you say you are. And I think that's incredibly important. And especially if when people are then reporting, and this is why I love Warner Chapel. They are chomping at the bit to implement this, which I love. But they're like, okay, from a data standpoint, even on one's profile, because one's able to then showcase your art form. It's not just for musicians, it's for everybody in the creative industries, whether you're a photographer, makeup artist, writer, this, that, and the other. Like, absolutely use this as your network to shine, but you're verified, you are who you say you are. But it's a really good way of when people are then reporting, because it's not necessarily just in that in case of emergency moment, they have the ability then on their profile to report such incidents of whatever they have necessarily been through. And what we do is we anonymously data collect data trends and say there is an increase of reports, between 8 and 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night at so-and-so studio. Your HR department then needs to investigate this, and it's all done through data. And we can be like, but also protecting the people that are on the platform, unless there is a report that's something, externally from that, we'd be able to, assist in further investigations. But we work with companies to say, here is the evidence that you need to investigate X, Y, and Z, and then we'll pass it over to CISA that stole my original idea. If that makes sense.
It does. No, 100%. And with that, again, defining this problem, you're changing the status quo. You're defining an abstract problem, giving a solution. Oftentimes, Katie, what I view as what you're doing is the entertainment industry, or however you want to view that, has a negative externality, which is the safety cannot be accounted for of the people who are there. And you're recognizing that negative externality into a beautifully laid out data, app integrated setting that changes the status quo. And I love that. I love that. It's not just reinventing a wheel or a bottle that, can make sure that water's, not contaminated, or whatever, innovation can lead us to. And I'm not diminishing those iterations, but fundamental, shifts in how things work with companies and how they disclose information and how they keep people safe Katie, you're doing some really cool stuff. And I think over the last 2 months, we can all understand from the headlines that we've seen in the news that people in that industry don't have the representation and the tools that they need in order to stay safe. And I get that. I see that. I was thinking of you, and I wanted to make sure that front and center on the Innovators Think Tank is the innovator who's taking on that crisis, and that people understand that that is a problem that is looking to be solved, and by one of our very own at that. All right. So, look, Dan, appreciate the question. Appreciate anybody who came up to add some color, add some flavor, ask some questions. This has been awesome. Katie, I hope it's the first of many segments throughout your, that third piece, the progress that you're going to continue to make with Owl. We want to hear about it. We want to be a part of it. We can't wait to see this journey kind of change the landscape of what's possible in that industry. If you need anything from our, the community, our team, whatever you need, just know that we have your back by the thousands. All right.
Thank you, Josh. Dr. Gordon Hart, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, hello there. I try not to talk too much about subjects I don't know very much about.
I love that. Then don't worry about it. You don't need to fill in the gaps. I appreciate that. Yes, because you seem to be dealing with some really heavy subjects indeed there, and I don't know very much about that. It's certainly interesting. And see, that's why you're a rock star. I certainly couldn't offer anything particularly useful.
And that is like, I wish more folks took a position on that, right? And said that exact thing. I love that and admire that in you, my friend, Dr. Gordon Hart. Katie, what we'll do is we're going to start putting a pin in it. We're at 5:15. We have some innovators on stage right now. Dan, Amanda, Sots, 3 pitches ready to go. I want anybody who has listened to pitches who look, I understand if at the beginning you're like, I'm not going to hop up on there, I feel obligated to give some feedback. I only call on people who have their hands up on the stage. So if you come on up and you don't have any feedback to give to the innovator who just pitched, no problem. Not a problem at all. I just simply will not call on you. During the pitch, if you have something to say, don't hesitate coming up to grab the mic. We will also do polls and things like that. I'll explain more on 60-second pitches here in a second. Just wanted folks to know that we're headed in that direction. Also, Katie, I just wanted to give people some time to change their setting if they need to come on up onto the stage. So, Katie, I want to give you the mic, though. Any thoughts to end the session? Here we are talking about patience, perseverance, and progress. Talk to me, about where folks can find you next. What is the next play? What's up in your world? And then we're going to go ahead and put a pin in it and start moving to the next bit.
Oh my great goodness! I just want to share with everybody. I've clicked on the bell button on this app, and I'm overwhelmed from the bottom of my heart with such amazing messages. I'm very honored and grateful to be able to share this. And Josh and we have been. I've been listening to and being part of I.T.T for really a long time and championing each and every one of you for such a long time. But I'll always just be me, and I was so excited to share everything, as you probably can hear it and probably can sense the smile on my face. But I don't take your messages for granted, and I'm honored that you have been moved by what I've shared with you all. My inbox is open. Just keep going. Sometimes part of my language, but shit hits the fan. But that's okay. Take that as the bigger the problem, the greater the blessing, and just keep going. But I'm really honored and grateful to have shared this. I've never spoken like this on any space ever. So Josh, oh my goodness, my cheeks hurt from smiling. Cash, Mattia, I love you guys so much. And this is a family, and it really is a beautiful family to be part of. So I wouldn't dream of doing this anywhere else. Thank you for having me. My inbox is open, and I'm honored really to be reading all of your messages now. So thank you.
There's no better way to end the first and long overdue segment from Katie with another one of these.